We are in the midst of earnings season, and we are going to zoom in on automakers. Stellantis and Ford's disappointing earnings weighing on the broader sector here. You can see those stocks both down here. Stellantis down 7%, Ford down over 16%. They are leading a sell-off in the broader auto sector. So here to weigh in, we've got Greg Migliore, Autoblog Editor-in-Chief. Greg, thanks so much for being here. I want to start with you on Ford. I was fascinated by that $800 million statistic. That is citing specifically the warranty costs for the quarter increasing by $800 million. For consumers who might be watching this, might own a Ford, for example, what do they need to know about that? Is this a quality issue for Ford that is reminiscent of what we're seeing with the likes of Boeing, or is it something slightly less serious?
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Specifically as it relates to Ford, they did have a disappointing quarter, and that was largely on the back of sort of older vehicles produced 2021 or before as far as warranty costs. These are vehicles that have to go back to the dealerships, perhaps for recalls, things like that, and the company, by extension, has to bear the brunt of those costs. So what Ford has said is that they're trying to focus on quality going forward so that their new portfolio, the vehicles that are the new vehicles on dealer lots, won't have this problem a few years down the road. Ford is well positioned as far as having some interesting EVs, and they've also been investing in their commercial business and their hybrid business in an effort to sort of diversify things. But as you can see, it was a pretty uneven quarter for them.
Yeah, let's go to the EVs that you mentioned there. The Model E electric vehicle unit losing over $1 billion just in this quarter. Why are they struggling so much on the EV side of things?
Well, right now, EVs are in a tough spot because it's very competitive. The margins can be pretty thin on them, and the technology is something that companies have to invest in to bring it to market. So for many companies, this is their first or second generation of electric vehicles, and they essentially need to pay off that technology. So right now, you're not going to fully realize that in the sticker prices of most vehicles. The federal tax incentive of $7,500, which is available for consumers, is meant to sort of ease that so car companies can charge a little more palatable prices. But right now, it's a little bit tough sledding in that sense.
Well, let's zero in on some car buying tips. If you are looking to buy an EV, should you be waiting for kind of the cheaper models that executives are getting pressured about on these earnings calls, or should you try to take advantage of current tax credits before the election? What's the right timing?
So I think now actually is a pretty good time as a consumer to be in the market for an EV. The selection has never been better. So whether it's Chevy, whether it's Volkswagen, Mercedes, Cadillac, Ford, Tesla, you name it. Basically, everybody has their take on electric vehicles. With the $7,500 tax credit that's available on some vehicles, and for people of certain incomes, they can still be pretty reasonably priced. You basically have to kind of make that decision. Hey, does the infrastructure work? Do you have chargers available either in your home or locally around you, perhaps on your drive route or where you might be working? So it's kind of a personal decision, but I think it is a good time to buy because, as the results of the presidential election could show, those $7,500 tax credits, funding for electric vehicle charging infrastructure, that could go away. Former President Trump has said that he's, basically not as interested in electric vehicles as President Biden is. So the landscape could change significantly. Right now, the selection's pretty good. There's a lot of EVs on dealer lots. You do have those tax incentives available.
Talk to me then about what you are hearing specifically from dealers who are on the ground selling these cars. How likely do you think they are to be willing to negotiate with customers to get these cars off the lot?
Well, I think dealers are always willing to negotiate. That's sort of the the secret power, if you will, of the consumer. Because right now you can arm yourself with all sorts of knowledge. You can figure out what the invoice price is. You can get all the available incentives. And know what you should be paying going into the dealership. So it's different than it was even 15 years ago when you kind of had to sort of ask the dealer for the price, ask nicely, and then kind of negotiate from there. So I think consumers have a lot more power than they really ever have. And I think dealers, on their front, are willing to negotiate because so many people don't even want to set foot in a dealership that they're more than willing to have that conversation in an effort to try to move the metal.
All right, Greg, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks so much for those tips for our audience. We appreciate it. That was Greg Migliore. He is Autoblog's editor-in-chief.